Hello, we are Group 1. Our group consists of 5 members: Ying, who is our leader, Zidhane, Chloe, Eve, and me, Gaia. In this video, we'll be discussing about the incompatible blood transfusion. Our content will be divided into 6 parts, which includes introduction, genetic and hematology, immunology, pathology, diagnosis and treatment, and also conclusion. Blood transfusion is widely used in medical procedures to replace blood lost during surgery, injury, or when the patient is anemic. In this study, we'll be discussing about a patient named Jack who had received bone marrow transplant 6 months ago and is unaware that his blood group had changed after the transplant. For this case study, our group expected that the acute hemolytic reaction occurred due to the incompatibility during a blood transfusion. After doing further research, we were able to produce a final hypothesis stating that the acute hemolytic reaction occurred due to the incompatibility during blood transfusion, which arose due to the change in blood group as a result of the bone marrow transplant. Next is about the genetics and hematology. There are 4 types of blood group: A, B, AB, and O. These are the possible genotypes for each blood group. For example, a person with blood group A may have 1 copy of the A allele, but they could have 2 copies too. Each blood type can be positive or negative. People with blood type O are universal donors, while the ones with blood type AB are universal recipients. This table shows the compatibility of each blood group. For example, for the blood group B, the surface of the red blood cells contains B antigen, and the plasma has anti-A antibody. Anti-A antibody would attack blood cells that contains A antigen. Therefore, people with blood group B cannot receive blood from blood group A donors. When it comes to bone marrow transplant, it is important that the HLA type of the donor and the recipient achieve an identical match before proceeding with the transplantation process to avoid any complications. In this case, Jack received the bone marrow transplant from the close related donor. Next, Chloe will explain how bone marrow transplantation changes the recipient's blood group.
Thank you, Gaia. So I will now begin talking about what causes the change of blood group. The change of blood group wouldn't normally happen, but it's possible when a person receives bone marrow transplantation because the recipient's bone marrow will make red blood cells flowing the marrow donor blood type. And indeed, Jack received a bone marrow transplantation 6 months back. His blood type AB has antigen A and B and without any antibodies, but after he received bone marrow transplantation, his blood type changed from AB to B without him realizing it. His body began producing antibody A, so now his blood contains antibody A, and this antibody A acts against the antigen A from his original blood and causes agglutination. Then I will pass it to the next speaker.
Thanks, Chloe. When incompatible blood transfusion happened to Jack, the antibody in his blood will firstly activate complement cascade. Then cascade will lead to formation of membrane attack complex, also known as MAC. MAC will bring blood proteins together and insert them to cell membrane, then cause cell lysis at the end. After binding, incompatible red blood cells will be rapidly destroyed. At the same time, other antibodies will bind to donor red blood cells and the cells will come together. Then the agglutinated cell may survive or removed by macrophages. Incompatible red blood cells will continue to stay in macrophages that are located in spleen or liver, and they will remove antibody-coated cells and induce phagocytosis. Due to the antibody response, hemolytic transfusion will happen. This is normally caused by type 2 hypersensitivity reactions. Now I will pass it to Eve to talk on type 2 hypersensitivity reactions.
Thank you, Chui. So what is type 2 hypersensitivity reaction? It refers to antibody-mediated cytotoxicity of cells in which host antibodies IgG or IgM are directly reacted with foreign antigens on the incompatible transfused blood cells and resulting in cellular destruction, functional loss, or damage to tissues. This damage can be accomplished via 3 different mechanisms. First, cell depletion or destruction without inflammation. Inflammation mediated by complement or Fc receptor, and cellular dysfunction by antibodies. However, in this case studies, it is under the type of cell depletion or destruction without inflammation. We will be focusing on this process. So the patient anti-A antibodies recognize the B antigens as foreign and bind to them on the surface of target cell through their Fc portion, and also bind to their respective Fc receptor on the surface of macrophages and act as an opsonic which enhances the phagocytosis process. The anti-A antibodies can also bind to their target cell, activate the complement pathway, resulting in the formation of complement components C3b, which also act as an opsonic and enhance the macrophages, causing them to engulf. This also leads to the formation of MAC complex involving the complement components C5b6, 7, 8, 9. The MAC creates the channels to induce lysis of target cell. Next, I will be passing down to Chloe, which will further discuss about the causes of hemolytic reaction.
Thank you, Eve. Moving on to pathology, I will further discuss about the causes. So what causes hemolytic reaction? Transfusion reaction will occur when there's a mismatch or incompatibility of the transfused blood and the recipient. The recipient's antibody sees the donor's blood as invaded and attack them. Back to this case, Jack suffered from hemolytic reaction because as shown on the card, the patient belongs to blood type AB, so the doctor ordered AB blood group for him. But when the patient started showing abnormal signs such as drop of blood pressure, he was requested to do a laboratory testing to check his blood type. The result showed that the patient is actually belong to blood type B instead. It's common to experience allergy reaction when receiving blood transfusion even when the person gets the correct blood group. The reactions can be mild and resolve by themselves, also known as simple allergy reaction. The most common symptoms include fevers and chills, but some people may also experience back pain and itching. However, there are also some cases where the reaction develops into a life-threatening reaction, also known as anaphylactic reaction, which is a severe allergy reaction that causes a drop of blood pressure, shortness of breath, blue lips, and hives. Transfusion reactions are not serious, but if it's left untreated for long, the worst case scenario is that it can lead to serious complications such as shock, anemia, and acute kidney failure due to excessive loss of blood. That's all from me. I'll pass it to Zidhane.
Thank you, Chloe. Now moving on to diagnosis. In case hemolytic transfusion reaction is suspected, transfusion must be stopped immediately and the labels on the patient blood components and paperwork must be checked in order to rule out any clerical errors. The temperature of the blood and any fluids given to the patient should be noted, and also mechanical errors should be accounted for in order to exclude non-immune causes of hemolysis. Complete blood count with peripheral smear should be done immediately alongside the Coombs test. A comprehensive metabolic profile can reveal whether lysis of red blood cells have happened, and if so, to what extent through the potassium and unconjugated bilirubin levels. ABO compatibility testing must be repeated. Same for the cross-match of pre- and post-transfusion samples. This can be done using the indirect antiglobulin and direct antiglobulin tests. Now moving on to treatments. As a treatment, after discontinuing the blood transfusion, saline drip is given intravenously. This is to ensure that the kidney function is retained at proper levels and to avoid blood clotting. Furthermore, it also helps to raise the blood pressure and prevent hypotension. In order to ease the breathing difficulty, the patient could also be given oxygen and fluids intravenously for hydration. In more severe cases, such as when disseminated intravascular coagulation occurs, plasma and platelet transfusions may be done if the risk of widespread clotting is present. Hemodialysis may be needed to maintain electrolyte balance and prevent cardiac arrhythmias. Now, I'll pass on to Gaia for the conclusion.
To conclude, it is important for the medical personnel to check the patient's medical history and whether the patient has undergone any major surgery or medical procedures in the recent time. Other than that, always be on the lookout for a potential acute hemolytic transfusion reaction.
Thank you.